The untold story of American-born courage on foreign soil. 177 souls of defiance, the forgotten stand at Goliad. In the spring of 1836, while much of the world's attention remained on Europe and the eastern seaboard of America, a quiet, bloody act of sacrifice was playing out in the sparse, sun-baked fields of Mexican-controlled Texas. There, under an unforgiving sky and behind adobe walls cracked by war, 177 men sat in chains, some bruised, others barely grown, all of them Americans. They were farmers, carpenters, lawyers, and sons of the Revolution's legacy. They had not come for land or treasure. They had crossed rivers and ridden dusty trails for something more eternal, the dream of liberty. These men, many barely in their 20s, had volunteered to fight in the Texas War for Independence. It wasn't their war. Texas was still Mexican land. But tyranny anywhere was tyranny everywhere, and to these sons of the American experiment, the call to stand for freedom did not need borders. Led by Colonel James Fannin, a determined yet conflicted West Point dropout, they had hoped to reinforce the defenders of the Alamo. But fate played its own cruel game. Trapped at the Presidio La Bahia near the small town of Goliad, Fannin's men were outnumbered and surrounded. With supplies low and escape impossible, they surrendered, trusting the word of the Mexican general that they would be treated as prisoners of war and spared. That trust would be their final mistake. On Palm Sunday morning, March 27, 1836, the air was strangely still. The sun rose with quiet brilliance as Mexican soldiers began to march the prisoners out in groups, telling them they were being returned to the United States. Some laughed nervously. Others sang hymns. A few knelt to pray. But as they reached the open fields, lined with brush and silence, the truth became horrifyingly clear. The orders came from General Santa Anna himself: no prisoners. Execute them all. Without warning, the crack of musket fire tore through the morning calm. Men fell, some instantly, others crawling, bleeding, pleading. It was not a battle. It was a massacre. The men did not beg. Many stood defiantly, refusing blindfolds, refusing silence. One shouted, "Remember the Alamo," before falling to the ground. Another whispered to his friend beside him, "We die free." A young man from Ohio was found days later, shot but still breathing. He had survived by pretending to be dead, buried under the bodies of his brothers. The earth soaked in blood, but not in shame. These were not Texans. They were Georgians, Kentuckians, Tennesseans, and New Yorkers. They came not for conquest, but for a cause. Their sacrifice, largely forgotten in textbooks, became a rallying cry across the Texas plains and beyond. The brutality of Goliad fueled the fire that would lead to Texas' final victory at San Jacinto just weeks later, where the phrase, "Remember the Alamo. Remember Goliad," echoed through rifle fire and bayonets. The death of the 177 was not in vain. It was the heartbeat of resistance. Yet for most Americans today, the name Goliad stirs no memory, no monument on the National Mall, no place in the Hollywood epics. And yet, these men, these sons of liberty, gave everything on foreign soil for the same ideals that forged the United States: freedom, dignity, and the right to rise against oppression. They were fighting for humanity. They were dreamers with rifles. Patriots without borders. And in their final moments, they gave voice to a truth older than any flag, that freedom is not a gift, but a debt, paid in courage. Their names may fade from memory, but their stand will not. They were 177 souls of defiance. And long after the dust of war has settled, long after the bugles have fallen silent, their courage still echoes, for any who dare to listen.